Hello everyone, welcome back to Ace Wisdom. Week 4, When You Win Without Them, Volume 4, Episode 31. They didn't expect you to leave, they expected you to wait, to hold on, to orbit their life like a satellite, loyal, distant, always accessible. But when you disappeared, that's when the real story began. Because the longer you stay gone, the more their reality crumbles, the more your silence becomes a mirror, one they can't escape. And each passing day, it hits harder, deeper, colder. You've outgrown the blame, you've outgrown the begging, you've stepped into the version of yourself that stops chasing love and starts embodying it. Today, we're about to expose exactly how your avoidant ex is cracking under the weight of your absence. Because make no mistake, you leaving wasn't a loss, it was a lesson, and now the test is theirs. See, they thought they had time, thought you'd wait, thought their confusion gave them the upper hand. They told themselves the story all avoidants cling to. I can always come back, if I ever feel ready. But you did something rare. You didn't wait for clarity, you created it. You didn't chase closure, you became it. And that is their worst fear. Because while they scroll aimlessly looking for a dopamine hit, you've been stacking silence like bricks, building boundaries, crafting confidence, rewriting your identity. And now you've become unreachable, not because you're punishing them, but because they no longer qualify for access. If you are irritated by every rub, how will your mirror be polished? Rumi. This isn't about revenge. This is about rebirth. Let's be real. Avoidants love the chase until they catch you. Then they panic. They pull back. They breadcrumb. They leave you in limbo while they figure out their feelings. But you didn't stay stuck in that cycle. You walked. And when you did, everything shifted. Because now, the longer you're gone, the less they can control, the less they can predict, the more they realize you were the glue holding everything together. They didn't break you, they built you. And today's episode, this is the blueprint of how your distance becomes their downfall. We're diving deep into 6 psychological consequences that hit your avoidant ex like emotional grenades slowly, silently, relentlessly. This isn't fiction. This is emotional cause and effect. But before we go further, here's what I need from you. Subscribe right now. You do not want to miss the final stretch of Volume 4. Week 5 is coming, and we're not just talking healing, we're talking dominance. Turn on notifications, because this isn't about passive consumption, it's about mental transformation. Drop a comment if you felt this shift, where your absence started speaking louder than any text ever could. Hit that like button to push this message out to every person stuck waiting for validation from someone who ran. And if you want the real tools, the behind the scenes, the unfiltered mindset work, join the channel membership. Link is in the description. That's where the warriors are, the ones who stopped chasing and started choosing. Now let me speak directly to you. Yes, you. You've been told that detachment equals not caring, that because they haven't reached out, they've moved on, that because they're not saying anything, they must be fine. Wrong. The avoidant ex doesn't react like the average person. They don't process pain in real time. They don't cry at goodbyes, but they do unravel when they finally realize, I lost someone who would have moved mountains for me, and now they don't even flinch. That realization doesn't show up immediately. It creeps in at 2 a.m., in the middle of their next failed situationship, when no one else feels as safe, when no one else gets their chaos, when they try to reconnect with someone new and it doesn't land. And it's in those moments they realize you weren't the one who was hard to love. They were just too emotionally unavailable to receive it. You staying gone isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Because what you're teaching them, through action, not argument, is that you don't negotiate your value anymore. You don't need to be loved back to validate your worth. You don't need to be chosen to believe you matter. You are done with proving, done with performing, done with playing emotional hide-and-seek with someone who's scared of intimacy but addicted to attention. And that, right there, that's why they're spiraling. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Confucius. Every time you resist the urge to reach out, you're carrying a stone. Every time you don't stalk their page, don't reply to their story, don't ask how they're doing, you're moving a damn mountain, one that buries the past and paves the road forward. And what they don't know is, you're not staying silent to win them back. You're staying silent because you've already won yourself back. So here's what's about to happen. Over the next 6 key points, I'm breaking down exactly what your absence is doing to them psychologically. You'll see why your lack of contact hurts more than any confrontation ever could. One of those points, key point 4, holds the secret mantra for this episode, and the first person to comment it will get pinned at the top. So stay locked in, stay alert. Because this episode, it's not about making them miss you. It's about helping you realize they already do. Before we dive in, I want you to comment this right now. I disappeared, and that was the beginning of my dominance. Say it out loud. Type it with conviction. Not for me, for you. Because this isn't just content, it's confirmation. You don't need their apology. You don't need their closure. You don't need their love. You are the love. And the longer you stay gone, the more they feel it. Let's get into it. Let's tear down the myth of the unbothered avoidant. This is your power. This is your edge. This is your moment. Episode 31 begins now. Let's go. Stay focused. Thing 1. They finally feel the void they created. At first, they felt relief. Your absence gave them space. And for someone avoidant, space is their drug. They chase it. They worship it. They confuse distance with freedom. But what they didn't realize is this. That silence they wanted so badly, it cuts both ways. Because when you left, you took the emotional gravity with you. You stopped checking in, stopped over-explaining, stopped making it work on their behalf. And now, they're floating, alone, disconnected, detached from the very safety net they took for granted. The worst loneliness is not to be comfortable with yourself. Mark Twain. That's the void they're sitting in now, not the void you created, the void they did, by pushing you away, by choosing chaos over connection, by thinking your love would always be there when they were ready. But they're ready now. And you're gone. And it hits different when you decide to stay gone, not out of bitterness, but out of backbone. You used to orbit them. Now you're on a whole different planet. And they're starting to feel it in the small, stupid moments. No one asks how their day went. No one sends them memes they secretly love but never admit to. No one anchors them emotionally when the world gets too loud. All that quiet they once craved, it's starting to scream. This is when it gets real for them, because it's not just your absence, it's the meaning of your absence. You didn't just walk away. You stopped hoping. You stopped explaining your worth. You stopped showing up for someone who made confusion your reward. And for an avoidant, that's hell, because they don't do processing in real time. They do it retroactively. By the time they miss you, you've already moved on. That's the price of pushing away someone who had pure intentions. You get left with echoes, with flashbacks, with phantom presence. They'll see your name in a notification and get excited until they realize it's not you. They'll scroll through pictures and feel that hollow grip of, damn, they were really there for me. But you're not anymore. And the worst part, they can't even blame you, because you didn't leave out of rage, you left out of self-respect. This is the consequence of taking you for granted. They got what they asked for, space, But not the kind they wanted. Now they're alone. And not the peaceful kind of alone, the empty kind. And the longer you stay gone, the louder that void becomes. Let them sit in it. Let it echo. Let it teach. Because you're not the one hurting anymore. They are. And that's only the first thing. It gets worse from here. Thing 2. Their control starts to crumble. Avoidants don't just fear closeness. They crave control. Emotional distance is their control. Vagueness is their control. Hot and cold behavior. That's not confusion. That's manipulation through inconsistency. It's how they stay in the driver's seat without ever committing to the destination. But when you walked away, you didn't just exit their life. You snatched the steering wheel right out of their hands. Now they're spiraling because for the first time, they're not calling the shots. No more texts to breadcrumb you back. No more low-effort, wide messages to check if they still got you. No more silent treatments to punish you for caring too much. You're gone. And they have no idea what you're doing, who you're seeing, how much better you're breathing without them. That mystery, it's killing them. The greatest power is not in possession. It's in absence. When they feel your energy missing, they start to collapse. Unknown. And collapse is exactly what's happening, because the avoidant needs to feel like you want them more than they want you. It's the only way they feel safe. If they know they could come back at any moment and you'd still be available, that's their dopamine fix. But now, they've lost access to their favorite drug, your attention, and without it, they're scrambling. They stalk your socials, but don't interact. They bring you up in casual conversation, but pretend they don't care. They replay old messages just to feel in control of the past, since they've lost control of the present. And the most painful part? They know you're not doing this to hurt them. You're doing this because you're finally healed enough not to need them. That kind of strength, it's threatening. Because nothing terrifies a controlling person more than someone who doesn't react anymore. You used to light up when they gave you crumbs. Now you ignore the whole damn loaf. And whether they admit it or not, they feel it. They feel the power shift. They feel the balance tilt. They feel you becoming the one who decides if contact ever happens again. Because they no longer control your reactions. They no longer dictate your day. They no longer rent space in your chest. You stopped chasing. You stopped waiting. You stopped caring on command, and now their little house of emotional control is caving in. Let it fall. Let them feel what it's like to lose the grip they thought they'd always have, because the moment you stopped dancing to their rhythm was the moment they lost the beat. And this is just the second hit. Stay gone. They're only just starting to unravel. But thing 3. Their ego starts to starve. Here's what most people don't understand about avoidant exes. It's not that they didn't want you, it's that they wanted to be wanted more than they were willing to give. They need admiration without intimacy, desire without depth, validation without vulnerability. And when you were in their life, you fed that ego, without even realizing it. Every text you sent first, every call you made to check in, every time you forgave bad behavior just to keep the peace. All of it was fuel. Fuel for an ego that didn't want love. It wanted control. It wanted attention. It wanted to know it could leave and come back at will, and you'd still be there. But now, you're not there anymore. No more messages, no more reactions, no more, "Are you okay?" No more anything. And their ego, it's starving. The ego is not master in its own house. Sigmund Freud. They thought your presence was a guarantee. They thought they were the prize. But when you vanished, calmly, silently, with no announcement, their illusion of power shattered. Because deep down, they needed you to need them. Even if they rejected the closeness, Even if they ran from the connection, they still relied on your emotional energy to prop up their fragile sense of self. That's the avoidant paradox. I don't want to be close to you, but I need to know you still want me. But now, they have no proof, no evidence, no new validation. You're not chasing, you're not explaining, you're not reminding them of what they had. And when someone who's used to being chased gets ignored, it's an identity crisis. Suddenly they're not so sure they're hard to get. They're just hard to keep, and that hits deep. They replay old moments, not because they miss the connection, but because they miss the reflection of themselves you used to give them. You saw the best in them. You believed in them. You gave them unearned significance, and they fed on it. But now, they're looking in the mirror and seeing emptiness. No one is hyping them up. No one is keeping them relevant. No one is filling the silence with ego-stroking attention. Their supply is cut off, and the ego can't handle the drought. So they pretend they're fine. They post thirst traps. They act unbothered. They might even try to trigger a reaction with petty antics. But behind all of that, starvation. Because nothing feeds the ego like being needed, and nothing destroys it like being completely, unapologetically ignored. And that's exactly what you're doing. Keep going. You're not just hurting their ego. You're starving it into extinction. 3 down, 3 more to go. And the next one, that's where it really starts to burn. Thing 4. They start to regret. What they never understood. Regret doesn't hit the avoidant ex when you leave. It hits when they finally realize what they lost and how little they ever appreciated it. At first they feel proud, detached, confident in their decision. They tell themselves things like, "It just wasn't right. We were too different. They wanted too much from me." But then you stay gone, and that space they asked for, it starts to show them everything they never took the time to learn. They start remembering things differently. Moments they once dismissed now feel sacred. Traits they once criticized now feel rare. All the small things you gave, your presence, your loyalty, your peace, they see it all now. Not because you changed, but because they finally got silent enough to reflect. We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. John Dewey. And when that reflection hits, it's agonizing. They realize you were more than kind. You were patient. You were more than present. You were invested. You were more than romantic. You were real. They start to understand what they once dismissed. That the conversations they avoided were meant to grow the relationship. That the needs you expressed weren't too much. They were basic emotional safety. But the avoidant doesn't understand love in real time. They only understand loss. So now they're haunted by the way you used to look at them, by the effort you used to make, by the fact that you never gave up until you finally had to. That's the regret. Not that you left, but that they never took the time to fully value you when they had you. And worse, they know they can't just walk back in. They sense you've changed, you've hardened, you've evolved into someone who doesn't need to be understood to feel complete anymore. You used to crave their clarity. Now you are the clarity. You used to beg for closeness. Now your distance is power. And that shift, it's what flips their regret into obsession, because now they want you. Not just because of who you were, but because of who you became without them. They don't just regret the past, they envy your future, a future that no longer includes them. So if you're watching this and you've reached this level of peace, comment the secret mantra right now. My absence taught them what my presence never could. First person to comment it below gets pinned at the top, not as a flex, but as a declaration. Because your absence, that wasn't punishment, it was the final lesson, and they finally got it. Too late. Thing 5. They realize you've outgrown them. This is the one that really stings, because it's not just about missing you anymore, it's about realizing you leveled up. See, avoidants assume time stands still without them. They think the world hits pause when they walk away, that your heart will just wait in limbo, clinging to hope, stuck in rewind. But when you stay gone and actually grow, when you evolve past the version of you that tolerated their inconsistency, that's when the real panic sets in. Because now, you're not chasing, you're not checking, you're not circling back, you're unrecognizable, not in looks, in energy. You've stopped reaching out, not out of pride, but because you've genuinely outgrown their emotional immaturity. The hardest thing you will ever do is let go of someone you once lowered your standards for. Outgrown. You used to shrink yourself to make room for their confusion. Now you expand with every boundary you hold, and they feel it. They feel it in the way you don't respond the same. They feel it when mutual friends mention how peaceful you seem. They feel it when they scroll your socials and don't see sad quotes. They see you thriving. And here's the part they never expected. You didn't replace them. You replaced who you had to become to survive them. That version of you, the one who tolerated emotional breadcrumbs, walked on eggshells, apologized for needing connection, that version is dead and buried. And in its place stands someone they don't even recognize, someone who doesn't settle, who doesn't explain, who doesn't play tug-of-war with someone too afraid to hold real intimacy. You're not playing the same game anymore, because you evolved into someone who doesn't need a partner to feel powerful. And when an avoidant sees that, it wrecks them, because they expected to always have the upper hand. They thought they could come back whenever, and you'd melt. But now, you don't even flinch. They look at you and see someone they can't reach, not because you're angry, but because you're elevated. They know deep down, even if they came back tomorrow, it wouldn't work, because you've grown beyond their level of emotional readiness. You used to beg them to meet you halfway. Now, they're not even in your league. And that realization, it's not just painful, it's humiliating. So let them scroll, let them reminisce, let them ache, because nothing hurts more than seeing the person you took for granted become someone you're no longer good enough for. And the craziest part, you did it all in silence. You didn't announce it, you didn't flaunt it, you just became it. And they're left behind. Thing 6. They know they can never get that version of you back. This is the death blow, because out of all the realizations your avoidant ex has had since you walked away, this is the one they can't escape. No matter how many distractions they chase, they'll never experience that version of you again. The version that believed in them, the version that forgave, that explained, that showed up over and over, even when they didn't deserve it. That soft, devoted, ride-or-die version of you, gone. And the sick twist. They didn't lose you because you stopped loving them. They lost you because they wouldn't meet you there. People don't always miss you. They miss the version of themselves that felt important when you were around. Unknown. You gave them the safest space they've ever known, and they mistook it for weakness. You gave them room to grow, and they used it as a runway to run. You gave them love with no conditions, and they punished you for being consistent, and now they're left trying to recreate that experience with people who don't care like you did, with people who don't see through them like you did, with people who won't stay like you always did. That's when it clicks. What they had wasn't regular, it wasn't replaceable, it was sacred. But sacred doesn't mean permanent. And when you decided to stop giving love where it wasn't received, that's when everything changed. Because you didn't just walk away, you transformed, and now they couldn't get the old you back if they tried, even if they crawled back and begged, even if they finally said all the right things, because the version of you who would have accepted that doesn't live here anymore. They feel it in their chest every time they try to rewrite the past, every time they rehearse that apology in their head, every time they start to text and delete it because they know too much time passed, too many wounds were opened, too much silence taught you how to survive without them. And nothing is more terrifying to the avoidant ex than realizing the person they thought would always be there no longer needs to be. Because this isn't just detachment, this is evolution. You're not bitter, you're better. You're not punishing them, you're protecting yourself. So let them grieve, let them replay the memories, let them romanticize the very love they once ran from. Because you didn't just walk away, you elevated so far they can't follow. And the ghost of who you used to be, it'll haunt them forever. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. And now, you're gone. Forever. So here we are, the end of Volume 4, the end of chasing, of waiting, of giving love to someone who couldn't even hold a conversation about what they wanted. You've watched them pull away. You've watched them freeze. You've watched them treat your consistency like a burden, only to feel the burn when you finally disappeared. Volume 4 was never about making them miss you. It was about what happens when you stop trying, when you stop being available to people who never earned your energy. We peeled back the truth, that your absence hits harder than your presence ever did. That silence, strategic, disciplined, stoic silence, is the most devastating response to an avoidant who thought you'd never leave. And if you've made it here, you're not the same person who started this journey. You're calmer, sharper, less reactive, less afraid of being alone. You've learned how to turn distance into power and stillness into evolution. Because that's the secret they never expected you to figure out. The version of you that survived the silence is the one they never thought you'd become. They thought they were rejecting someone weak, but what they really did was create someone unreachable. So now what? Now it's your turn. Volume 5 is next, and it's not about them anymore. It's about you. Dating again, not from insecurity but from power. Upgrading emotionally, not to prove a point, but to raise your standards. Becoming their biggest regret, not because you seek revenge, but because your growth makes their loss undeniable. No more building castles in someone else's silence. No more shrinking to be loved. From here on out, you choose, you lead, you attract without chasing, you love without losing yourself, and you show up as the version of you who doesn't bend for breadcrumbs. So here's what I need you to do. Subscribe so you're ready for Volume 5, because we're going deep into dating with clarity, emotional dominance, and zero tolerance for confusion. Comment below right now. I'm done waiting. I'm ready to rise. Smash that like button if you felt this volume in your soul. Turn on notifications, because Volume 5 is the rebirth arc. And if you're ready for even more, real tools, mindset rewiring, and emotional elevation, join the channel membership. Link is in the description. This was Volume 4. You didn't just survive it, you graduated. And now, they're stuck on who you were, while the world's about to meet who you're becoming. Let's go. Volume 5 begins soon. Be ready.